What's good, YouTube? I'm back with another video. Now, if you haven't seen the most recent video I got up there, which is Final Fantasy VII Remake is a cash grab, it'll be over here or there, wherever I decide to put it in the video. But I wanted to talk specifically about delusional fans and their reactions. Now, if you haven't been paying attention to the comment section, not necessarily on YouTube, but the Final Fantasy Reddit, where I posted this video as well, I'm getting a lot of feedback from fans, and a lot of the things that they're saying is pretty interesting. Now, let me break it down for you. First and foremost, I'm not a provocateur. I'm not someone from the outside. I am a Final Fantasy fan myself. I am a gamer. I'm 31 years old. I started playing video games when I was 4. One of my earliest memories, period, not just gaming, is my dad playing the Sega Genesis. We were living in the projects. Everybody was lined up outside our house, looking in our windows just to get a glimpse of Sonic the Hedgehog 1, doing the loop-de-loops. I think it was the lava level. So I've been in this thing for a while. I'm not someone coming out trying to troll people or trying to invoke a response. This video only has 90 something views, so obviously I'm not doing it for the views. So now that we got that out the way, if you go to the Reddit page that I have this video posted, it is a lot of angry Final Fantasy fans telling me, number one, I don't know what I'm talking about. They're trying to equate this game being sliced up to games having sequels, all type of delusional things. And this is why the game industry is in the shape it is in terms of how they treat the consumer. Because a lot of gamers go out of their way to shout down any criticism or anything that goes against their favorite pastime. Now, I get it. I'm a One Piece fan. And I get triggered when someone says things like it's too many episodes or it's not that good, whatever. I understand where you're coming from. I get triggered too, but I don't let it get to me that much. At the same time, you have to understand the difference between hate and valid criticism. Hate is just coming into the franchise and just saying things negative about it just because you can. Valid criticism is looking at the game objectively and from a fan point of view and saying things that could have been improved, pointing out things that are negative, and pointing out things that are bad. But this is the type of energy that got us into the Cyberpunk fiasco, because I can remember vividly on Twitter, and I got banned from NeoGAF because I said I don't think this game is gonna live up to the hype. And so many people, same as Twitter, ran out and told me, number one, I don't know anything about the cyberpunk genre and the cyberpunk genre in general. CD Projekt Red are developer gods, and I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm stupid, I don't play games. All these things, right, that had nothing to do with the valid criticism as far as me saying, hey, we haven't seen enough of the game out in the wild. Meaning, we haven't seen this game being played outside of the developer scenario, meaning on the PC hardware that they have, and playing the game to trigger the right reactions from the game in their own in-house scenario. So I said, before I sing this game's praises, I want to see more of the game in the wild. People playing it, it's unpredictable. You might encounter certain glitches or things like that. Let's just kind of ease back, and people, shout me down, whatever the case may be, which is cool. I'm not tripping, but lo and behold, look at where we are. I don't say these things just to say these things. I've been around the block in this gaming thing for a long time. I paid attention to the trends. I've got caught up in the hype for video games before. I've bought games that I know good and well are anti-consumer. I have been playing the 2K series since Allen Iverson was on the cover of the game. I know good and well that the game is made for you to sink and throw money at the game. I know this. I know that. So I've been around for the longest time. I've watched games come and go. I watched games get hyped that I wanted to play. If you go down to my videos, I'm complaining about Final Fantasy 15. I bought that game off the thought that I thought this was going to be one of the most incredible gaming experiences, because I bought myself into the hype. I followed the game since Final Fantasy Versus 13 on the PS3. I couldn't wait for that, which never came. I bought Kingdom Hearts. I was a big Kingdom Hearts fan, so I got caught up in the hype myself before, which told me a couple of things about myself and what I need to look out for and how to avoid being caught up and being a delusional fan. The problem with delusional fans is you can't say anything about the game. And it's not just games, it's pretty much everything. If you criticize something with a hardcore fan base, those fans are rabid and extreme, and they will get upset because you didn't sing the game's praises. Now, Final Fantasy VII Remake, it may be well crafted as far as gameplay and graphics, and there might be certain points in the game that are good. It might be a good game. The problem is they are nickel and diming you. I'm going to say that again. They're making whole games out of locations that you traveled to in the original Final Fantasy VII and charging you $60 each time they come out with these slices. And it's because these places didn't warrant a full game at the beginning when they were in the original game. They pad the game out. I'm saying that again. So they add filler things. When the slums in Midgard was destroyed in Final Fantasy VII, you felt that weight and impact. You did not have to go and do side quests and talk to various NPC characters that you don't even remember, or have fleshed out cutscenes where you guys are hanging out and eating sandwiches or whatever the case may be for you to feel the weight and impact when it was finally destroyed. The whole theme of the game, especially in the first part, is a giant corporation destroying the planet. So obviously they have a disregard for human life. That's already built into the narrative. You don't need to see 100% what the day in and day out activities of these NPC characters in the slums in order to feel the weight of them being destroyed. You see the destruction and devastation for yourself. So you don't need a full game to play and go and hang out and see this and that until they get destroyed. Then you say, oh my God, it's the same thing. You are being played. It's no different from any other game where they nickel and dime you for VC as far as 2K, or nickel and dime you to buy this pack or do this or do that. It's the same thing. Let me tell you something. This has such a, you know how this game, well, let's stop. Let me get my thoughts together. Final Fantasy, especially Final Fantasy VII, is such a huge game. It has such a huge franchise, a fan base, that Square Enix knows this. So they'll put Final Fantasy characters in or on anything. That's just common business practice. If you want to make money, you know you got a big fan base. It's the people who want everything Final Fantasy VII or everything Final Fantasy. You'll buy Final Fantasy VII cups, plates, stickers, keychains, posters, cashed in DVD movies from back in the day that really don't do anything, just so you can revisit this world. It is nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, that's a form of cash grabbing. It is. It's putting stuff on things that aren't necessary just to make money, but you'll buy it because you want it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's also nothing wrong with saying, hey, that's a cash grab. You know what I'm saying? They're just putting stuff, they're just slapping stuff on plates and spoons and bowls and keychains just to make a profit. It's nothing wrong with saying that because it's the truth. And the sad thing about it is the state of gamers in 2021. We went from, if you can remember, gamers complaining about horse armor. Remember that? Remember that was the threshold we weren't going to cross? Horse armor, buying DLC horse armor. But what the game industry does, they looked at that reaction, went back to the drawing board, gave you some middle ground, right? Because remember, they started giving out season passes on this DLC that you had to purchase, things like that. They started giving you middle ground to see what gamers were willing to take and going from there. Fast forward to 2021, we're not only buying remakes of games that we played back in the day, we're now up to the point where we're not even buying a full game. We're buying a small purchase. Imagine if the Resident Evil 2 remake made a full game out of the police station, just the police station and nowhere else, and then they give you a full game before you get to the police station, and then they made a full game out of the sewer section. This is what I'm talking about. It's a difference. But because gamers are so thirsty to play these franchises and so rabid to fight down criticism, that they lead us all into this situation. You don't think other publishers are watching what Square Enix is doing with Final Fantasy VII and looking at the numbers and seeing what properties they own that they can do the same thing with? You don't think EA is looking at that with all the game properties that they own? You don't think Activision, Capcom is looking at it even more since they made the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes? You don't think they're looking at that stuff and saying, well, we don't even got to do all of that. We can just, you know what I'm saying, give them one slice and then charge them $60 for another slice and for another slice and for another slice. You don't think they're looking at that? This is my problem. I'm not the biggest Final Fantasy VII fan, but I do like Final Fantasy VI. I do like Chrono Trigger. I like these games. You know what I'm saying? So I would love to see it remake. But now, since this business model has been proven that it works and gamers will buy it without any fuss or fight, they're going to do the same thing with Final Fantasy VI. And you know for sure they're going to do the same thing with Chrono Trigger. You know it. Every time period is going to get its own game instead of just being part of an entire complete package. And then when it's all said and done, they're going to reshape and repackage this game as the complete edition and put it on the same consoles that they were on as the slices. You know this. You see this now with the definitive editions of games that come out with the DLC all in one package. They give you the DLC that they gave you that was exclusive to this platform or this retailer. They package every single thing into one whole game, which should have been what was there in the first place. And this is my argument overall, is that game companies will nickel and dime you, and because you don't want to hear that, and because you want to argue the merits of the game itself and not looking at the business practices, I don't care if they don't have to shove in Zack from Crisis Core or Dirge of Cerberus information. That is not necessary to the core Final Fantasy VII story. Yes, we know about Zack and Cloud taking his personality, blah blah blah, but do we need to have that game inside of the original Final Fantasy VII game? All you need to do is show us some flashbacks. That's nothing new. Yes, they talking about, oh, you fought fate and you're reshaping this. This is the business model. Look at Kingdom Hearts for a perfect example, right? Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 came out on the PlayStation 2. Now, they could have made Chain of Memories its own PS2 game, but they decided to put that on the Game Boy Advance. They could have made any other Kingdom Hearts game on a console. You know why it took them so long? Because they wanted to capitalize on as many platforms as possible. The Nintendo 3DS comes out. Oh, well, you know, people want to play games on the 3DS. Let's put a Kingdom Hearts game on there. The PSP comes out. Oh, people are going to want to play games on that platform. Let's put a Kingdom Hearts game on there. Oh, the PlayStation 4 is out. Let's put a Kingdom. This is what they're doing. It has nothing to do with them fleshing out a narrative. It has to do with them capitalizing on all platforms and maximizing profits. It doesn't make any sense for them just to come out with one game on this. Instead, they're gonna spread it out. And you know what the justification is? The justification is the story. This is integral to the story. This is more important. It's not. It's not the story. It's the business practice, and the story is the excuse used to put this on that console to take more money, to make more money. And in the end, it didn't mean anything. If you play Kingdom Hearts 3, most of the stuff that you played in those handheld games didn't mean anything. It didn't mean anything. That's what I'm talking about. You may be a fan of the story that they present, but that doesn't take away the fact that the process of them giving you this story, they're taking money from you in a unethical or anti-consumer style way. I don't mind the story of Final Fantasy VII Remake. I don't like the fact that the story is used to justify slicing the game up in pieces when that's not even the reason. The reason is they just want to make more money. That's the reason. So that's what I'm trying to get to gamers. It's not to bash Final Fantasy VII, or it's not to bash gamers or the people who responded to my post on Reddit in the first place. It's to tell you that this is a bad business practice. Don't fall for it. Final Fantasy VII Remake is a cash grab. There's no story justification to take one level and stretch it into an entire game. There's no reason for that. There's no justification or excuse for that. If you think there's a justification and reason for that, fine. That's your $60. But me personally, I don't feel that you should be charged $60 each episode. They didn't tell you how many episodes it's going to be, plus DLC. And then people who had the Final Fantasy VII PS4 version aren't going to get this upgrade on the PS5. So that's another investment that you have to make. That's what I'm talking about. That's the problem I'm talking about. It's the same thing with comic books. I was a big comic book fan, but after a while I realized something. See, I got Cable. Cable's my favorite X-Man, my favorite mutant, whatever. But I realized something. Is that the comic books are just an endless loop of building characters and stories. Then the creator leaves and you get a new creator writing the comic book, right? And then they're going to go through drastic changes, and then they're going to build it up to a point that they reach this like a event. Summertime, an event comic come out. Final Crisis, Civil War, Secret Invasion, Dark Avengers, stuff like that. And they'll reboot everything that happened prior or during this event, only to start over that same loop. And it's now gotten to the point where, since Marvel and DC are owned by Warner Brothers and Disney respectively, they just are houses for properties. So now they don't even matter even more. That's what I'm saying. So the investment is futile of reading a comic book and a character when you know this is going to happen. What is the payoff for reading a character's story arc that you know doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things? All the things they go through, the triumphs, the losses, the motivations, everything like that, is going to be built up. And then when they can't do anymore, they're going to just start back from square one to give you the same stories over and over again. It's an infinite loop that you get stuck in. And it's the same thing with these video games. They stick you in an infinite loop of buying these games and justifying it for whatever mundane thing you can think of. Just because you're a fan of something doesn't mean you have to take every single thing they give you. They don't even care. These publishers don't care about you. They just want to make money. So if they can find a game lying around in their storage of properties that they've bought over the years, they screwed over the developers, they'll just throw it back out, and whatever shady business practices they want to slap on attached to that is what they're going to give you. It does not help as a fan, as a gamer, to be delusional about these things. It does not help you. It does not help other gamers who may want to buy these games, but because such a group of people support this practice because they like the property, it screws everybody over. Now if we get a Final Fantasy VI remake or a Chrono Trigger remake or whatever game remake, this may be the business model moving forward. I didn't like it when they announced that it was going to be episodic in the first place. This isn't the game for that. I feel like episodic stories are for indie games, games with not a high budget or risky titles that may not require the full investment of making an entire game. So they want to just see where they can, see if it'll be successful or not. Then they can continue, and then hopefully in the future they'll give you full games. But Final Fantasy is an established game franchise for years. Square Enix is an established publisher. They don't need to do this. They're doing this just to take advantage of the hype and the fan base. And if you can't see that, that is a problem. So I just want to make this follow-up video because I see a lot of people, especially on Reddit, missing the point of what I'm making about this video game. And I also want to just highlight the fact that, we complain so much about the practices of the game industry, but we never talk about the gamers themselves. They're part of the problem. You can't do one thing without the other being making it, allowing them to do it in the first place. So I just wanted to make this video just to let you guys know what was going on and just kind of do a blanket response to everything and tying it into what I was talking about in the first place and what this channel is about. If you look at some of my most recent videos, it's a criticism of game practices because it's unfair to gamers to be put through this type of stuff. Long story short, that's what it was. But leave me a comment. Let me know, is this clarifying anything for you? Or do you notice this same trend? Do you agree or disagree? Leave a comment, like, share, subscribe. Other than that, man, I'm out. Stop getting nickel and dime. Peace.